Turn it off. Please, I'm begging you. It was my fault. I was wrong. But please don't call off the wedding in front of everyone like this. Those were the desperate cries of the bride, on her knees in the middle of a lavish wedding, pleading with her groom after a video of her affair with his best friend was played publicly before hundreds of guests. But this wasn't just a canceled wedding. It was a cold, calculated act of revenge, because the groom had known the truth all along and chose to expose everything at the most precious moment. Before we dive into this emotional roller coaster, comment 1 if you support the groom's way of getting justice. I've frequently pondered the significance of what individuals refer to as gut instincts. It's a topic that frequently comes up in conversation. A voice whispers of unease, a nagging sensation that something is amiss, yet it is swiftly dismissed, cast aside like a fleeting shadow. In retrospect, I came to understand that my intuition had been persistently urging me for months leading up to my wedding day. It whispered that my fiancée, Emily, and my closest companion, Marcus, were drawing too near. Much nearer than usual, yet I found myself preoccupied. Engaged in the relentless pace of my challenging role at a software consultancy, immersed in the intricate details of planning the wedding that Emily envisioned, in striving to meet the expectations of her exacting parents, Edward and Vivian Bennett. Though I sometimes experienced a twinge of jealousy as I observed Emily and Marcus sharing laughter in a secluded corner, or noted the way Marcus's gaze lingered on her, stirring a sense of discomfort within me, I found myself lacking the energy to confront those unsettling thoughts. Fatigue enveloped me after countless 12-hour workdays, compounded by the relentless calls and errands that accompany planning a grand wedding. Though my parents were filled with love, they lacked both the resources and the expertise to meet the extravagant expectations that Emily and her mother insisted upon. That found me balancing an overwhelming array of responsibilities, leaving little space to catch my breath. Yet the warning signs were unmistakable. For example, each time Emily and Marcus exchanged texts, far more frequently than one might expect between a best friend and a fiancé, I would notice them smiling at their messages or alluding to inside jokes they chose to keep to themselves. If I were to inquire, "What's so amusing?" their replies would likely consist of nonchalant shrugs or lighthearted yet vague comments, merely a lighthearted meme, an inside joke, nothing that would pique your interest, and so forth. I had been acquainted with Marcus since our freshman year in college. In that small dorm room, we forged a bond, enduring sleepless nights in preparation for finals, always ready to support one another in times of need. In my heart, I felt we shared a bond akin to that of brothers, and perhaps it was this very connection that allowed me to suppress my own worries. It was beyond my comprehension that he would so audaciously betray my trust. He is my best man, I reminded myself. He's there for me, isn't he? Indeed. Emily hailed from a background of considerable affluence. The Bennett family held a distinguished position within the community, with Edward Bennett deeply entrenched in local politics, while Vivian Bennett reigned as the commanding socialite, attending every fundraiser and charity ball. Her smiles laced with a hint of condescension. When I proposed to Emily, they reluctantly accepted me. Though not overtly disrespectful, they consistently made it a point to remind me that I was elevating my status, that the Bennett name carried certain expectations to uphold. Their hubris was evident even in the details of the wedding planning. They proposed a division of expenses that was perfectly equal, her parents insisted, yet their desires soared towards opulence. A grand venue, sumptuous centerpieces, a string quartet serenading the guests, and a guest list that swelled to nearly 300. My parents, a retired school teacher father and a mother who was nearing retirement as a nurse, had to tap into their savings to cover their portion. Regardless of how often I attempted to establish boundaries, it invariably concluded with Emily's mother proclaiming, "We can't cut corners. We are the Bennett," or reminding me, "Consider what others will think. Do you want your bride to appear cheap on her momentous day?" The language irked me, yet Emily frequently aligned herself with her parents' views. She would bid me farewell with a wave. Allow them their enjoyment. After all, this is a singular occasion, isn't it? Renowned final utterances. A week prior to the wedding, Keelan, with a confident grin, volunteered to take care of hotel reservations for the guests traveling from afar. "You've got plenty to handle, so allow me to take this off your hands," he said, displaying the phone screenshots with a confident smile. It evoked memories of my college days, placing my trust in him was something significant. With a sense of relief, I expressed my gratitude to him. On the eve of the wedding, our families convened for the rehearsal dinner at the opulent venue. Emily, adorned in a gown of nearly bridal white, danced gracefully among her father's kin, who scarcely recognized my presence. My parents hovered uneasily, ill at ease with the opulence surrounding them. From across the room, Keelan offered me sporadic thumbs-ups, a silent acknowledgement that sparked a subtle connection between us. Following the run-through, we transitioned to the lounge for a celebratory after-party. The atmosphere was vibrant, brimming with joy, until my gaze fell upon the absence of Emily. The calls were directed immediately to voicemail. A bridesmaid, feeling the weight of the moment, quietly expressed her sense of overwhelm and slipped outside for a breath of fresh air. I merely shrugged my shoulders. On the eve of the wedding, perhaps she simply craved a moment of solitude. As time flowed gently onward, Keelan faded from view as well. Initially, I felt no strong suspicion. Perhaps he had merely stepped out to fetch more champagne or something similar. Yet a persistent voice in my mind urged me to seek him out and to search for her as well. What began as a mere half hour stretched into a full hour. Driven by an insatiable curiosity, I reached for my phone, navigated through social media, and sought out any updates from Emily or Keelan. Indeed, I found myself wandering into the realm of Emily's Instagram. In a fleeting moment of oversight, she found herself having uploaded a short story, only to erase it within mere seconds. Yet the harm had already been inflicted. In that brief moment, captured on film, I discerned a hotel corridor, the shimmering design of the carpet, and a door number that peeked into view. The corridor before me was certainly not the one from our wedding venue. A new location, a new hotel awaits. My heart tightened within my chest. The intuition I had buried for months surged forth with a fierce intensity. Experience it firsthand. I had to witness it with my own eyes. As I navigated the bustling streets close to the hotel district, my thoughts surged with a whirlwind of potential explanations. Might she have ventured to a friend's chamber? Might Keelan be assisting her in retrieving something? My heart raced at the thought. What if they truly are together? That is utterly astonishing. That simply cannot be true. Yet the part of me that had awakened completely would not be silenced. I was aware that Keelan had secured some recent hotel reservations for guests, yet the specifics eluded me. I parked my car and strolled into the lobby of a chic boutique hotel, scanning the front desk for any sign of recognition from my previous visits, or perhaps from Keelan's group reservations. My plan was still taking shape, yet fortune smiled upon me as I spotted Keelan's car stationed by the entrance. If that wasn't an indication, I couldn't fathom what could be. I ascended to the 8th floor. My gaze swept over each door number, hunting for the one I had caught a fleeting glimpse of in the Instagram video, room 846, 847. My heart quickened, every footfall resonating in the stillness of the hallway. The night air beyond the windows was enveloped in an inky darkness. The overhead lighting was harsh, illuminating me as if it sought to reveal my vulnerabilities before I could face them. Yet I found myself reluctant to invite a confrontation, at least for the moment. A deep-seated urge compelled me to collect evidence, ensuring that I would never doubt my own sanity in the future. I crept closer, my ear pressed against the door of room 847. At first, silence enveloped me. With my heart racing, I cautiously turned the handle and, to my astonishment, discovered that the door was not secured from within. It had been left locked, carelessly, by nothing more than the electronic mechanism. In a twist of fate, Keelan had discreetly handed me a master key card earlier this month, alluding to wedding emergencies. He had mentioned it, just in case something went awry with the guest rooms. I retrieved it from my pocket, inserted it into the slot, and after a brief pause, the small LED glowed green, the handle releasing with a gentle click. They bestowed upon me the instrument of their own demise, I mused. A wave of nausea surged through me. I entered without a whisper. The room was bathed in a gentle glow as soft shadows danced playfully across the walls. A soft, intimate whisper reached my ears, igniting a fire within me. On the expansive king-sized bed, Emily found herself entwined with Keelan, with skin exposed and hair untamed. She reclined sideways upon the sumptuous bedding, while Keelan hovered above her. In the midst of a quiet exchange, their words eluded my ears, yet her soft laughter spoke volumes. That was everything I required to witness. My rage erupted with such intensity that I instinctively clenched my hands into tight fists. A tempest of rage surged within me, compelling me to unleash a torrent of curses, to drag Keelan from the bed and pummel him into submission for his audacity. Yet a tranquil recess of my thoughts urged me to pause, to reveal no emotion, to gather the evidence. I remembered that the wedding was set to take place in less than 12 hours. I yearned for them to stand at that altar beside me, convinced of my ignorance, so I could unveil their flawless facade for all to see, allowing them to believe they had escaped unscathed. With trembling hands, I lifted my phone, activated the video mode, and focused in closely. My thumb lingered just above the record button, poised and ready. Indeed, I reassured myself, they will surely wish to witness precisely what you have captured in due time. I captured a fleeting moment of them in bed, preserving the intricate details, the expression on Emily's face, the stance of Marcus, and the date-time stamp nestled in the corner. Unbeknownst to them, I lingered in the shadows. Keelan murmured a promise of their uncatchable fate, eliciting a soft, low laugh from Emily. The lens captured it flawlessly. My whole being quaked with fury. I stifled my voice, determined to go unnoticed, avoiding conflict. This moment is not suitable. I recited that mantra repeatedly, a steadfast anchor for my sanity. Once I had gathered sufficient footage, I meticulously stepped back, capturing the scene as I withdrew, ensuring the phone's microphone recorded every mortifying nuance. I gently shut the door, mirroring the soft touch with which I had first opened it. In a frantic rush, I dashed down the hallway, almost colliding with the elevator doors. A weight pressed against my chest, a volatile force poised to explode at dawn. The night air hit me with the force of a sudden plunge into icy water. My heart raced as if I had just completed a grueling marathon. Raging torrents surged within, poised to erupt into a cry or a complete breakdown. The phone rested in my clammy grip, a stark reminder that those I had placed my faith in had betrayed me in the most profound way. After taking a moment to regain my composure, I steadied my breath, slipped into my car, and drove without a destination in mind until I stumbled upon a 24-hour diner. In a worn booth, I quietly examined the footage. It was unequivocal. It was at that moment that the seeds of a ruthless scheme began to germinate. If their intention was to bring me low, they had certainly succeeded. Yet I would not stand alone in the face of humiliation come tomorrow. Sleep eluded me that night. By 5 in the morning, I had consumed 3 cups of coffee, jotted down notes for my wedding presentation, and mentally practiced how to orchestrate the schedule to ensure I had command of the microphone and projector. The venue offered state-of-the-art audiovisual equipment. We gathered the necessary equipment to present a slideshow that captured the essence of our childhoods in the milestones of our relationship. I had carefully assembled a collection of Emily's baby photos, my own somewhat awkward teenage images, and candid moments of us enjoying the beach together. Everything could change in the blink of an eye. I was intimately familiar with the system, capable of redirecting the feed to suit my desires. A thumb drive, a mobile device, any external medium. A fragment of my mind lingered in doubt, shadowed by the awareness that I would be revealing a glimpse of a deeply personal and intimate moment. Yet a memory surfaced of how they had orchestrated it all in secrecy, just the night before the wedding. The harshness of that treachery, in my view, warranted the intensity of my retribution. Every action carries its own set of consequences. As the clock struck 6:30 a.m., I made my way back to the apartment that Emily and I had called home for nearly a year. It came as no surprise that she had not yet returned. If she believed I was unaware, perhaps she had crept in at the break of dawn, quietly entered the guest room, and intended to feign a simple girls' night out. Yet as I turned the handle and stepped inside, the scene before me remained untouched, just as we had left it. The light in the living room lay dormant, while the bedroom stood in tidy repose. I entered the bedroom that had once radiated warmth and comfort. Now it seemed like uncharted land. Her phone charger lay on the bedside table, while the ring box I had gifted her remained prominently displayed on the dresser. The ache of heartbreak ignited once more, yet alongside it surged a tide of anger. She discarded all that we had created for a fleeting affair with my closest companion. I silenced my phone, hoping to steal an hour or two of rest, yet my thoughts refused to settle. At approximately 9 a.m., Emily made her long-awaited appearance. The gentle sound of the door unlocking reached my ears, a soft beep that signaled a new beginning. I feigned slumber, holding my breath to catch the sound of her soft footsteps approaching. Indeed, her footsteps were delicate, as though she wished to avoid disturbing my slumber with questions about her whereabouts. She refrained from casting a glance into the master bedroom. I caught the sound of her entering the guest room, likely to tend to her appearance with a touch of finesse. 30 minutes later, I stepped out, pretending to yawn, as if everything was perfectly ordinary. She perched at the kitchen island, her hair neatly brushed, clad in a relaxed t-shirt and comfortable sweatpants. She offered me a weary smile. "Good morning, darling," she said. "Last night I found myself sharing a space with a friend, indulging in a bit too much wine at the rehearsal dinner. You understand the scenario, don't you?" I returned the smile, my mind swirling with memories of the video from the night before. "It must have been quite the celebration," I replied with a measured tone. "I'm simply relieved to know that you're all right." I bestowed upon her a fleeting kiss on the cheek, battling the temptation to utter a sharp retort. Her eyes danced with a hint of relief, perhaps tinged with a touch of caution. I came to the realization that she is attempting to decipher my thoughts. She likely fretted that I had an inkling of the truth. Yet my countenance betrayed nothing more than a subtle acquiescence. Imagine for a moment that you have successfully eluded the consequences of your actions. I needed to maintain the facade for just a little longer. The wedding was scheduled for noon at the prestigious Wentworth Country Estate, selected for its esteemed reputation. My parents arrived at 10 a.m., brimming with excitement, yet oblivious to the tempest gathering just below the surface. I welcomed them with empty embraces. My mother radiated joy in her soft-hued dress. My father gently patted my back, perhaps reminiscing about the quiet boy I used to be. With a strained smile, I informed them about the last-minute AV setups I had to manage. Until we meet again. In their suite, Emily and her bridesmaids busily attended to hair and makeup, each moment filled with excitement and anticipation. Keelan was probably in the groomsman's room, yet I had no desire to seek him out, allow him to believe I remained oblivious. I quietly entered the AV booth that provided a view of the ballroom below. Leo, the technician, meticulously tested the microphone and projector. "This is Jason, the groom," as he shared with a colleague. "He has some additional items he wishes to present, correct?" "Indeed," I affirmed with a casual smile. From the depths of my jacket pocket, I retrieved a flash drive. A surprise video awaits. Rather than the typical couple's slideshow, I plan to embark on a more theatrical endeavor. Leo let out a soft chuckle. "Greetings. Today marks a significant milestone for you, my friend. Please ensure you provide me with the cue so that I can replace the files accordingly." I gently tapped the flash drive. "I shall provide you with a cue. Perhaps I shall simply declare, 'Let it roll.' Believe me, it will be of no consequence to you." A thin shard of guilt nibbled at my conscience, yet I suppressed it resolutely. This predicament is of their own making. The ceremony was set to commence precisely at noon in the grand ballroom, a lavish venue adorned with soaring ceilings, sparkling crystal chandeliers, and carefully arranged chairs awaiting the guests. As the clock struck 11:50, the venue was almost at capacity. The air buzzed with animated conversations as individuals captured moments with selfies and shared warm greetings. The bride's side was substantial, a vibrant reflection of the chamber's social elite, esteemed local figures, valued business partners, and cherished extended family. My own intimate circle of close friends, colleagues, and relatives was present as well, albeit eclipsed by the throng in the chamber. The arrangement had me, as the groom, standing at the altar alongside the officiant, awaiting the entrance of the wedding party. Yet as the clock struck 11:55, I found myself absent. The officiant, a longtime acquaintance of Edward Bennett, surveyed the scene with a furrowed brow, a hint of bewilderment in his eyes. Emily's father began to glance at his watch, a frown etching across his face. My mother fidgeted in her seat, a palpable tension in the air. Vivian Bennett, clad in a prim lilac suit, cast a disapproving glance as she leaned in to whisper to a few guests. Where in the world could Jason be? Is he perpetually this untrustworthy? She relished every opportunity to chip away at my confidence. Emily, tucked away in the shadows, would likely have been in a state of panic by now, though I was absent to witness it. From the vantage of the second-floor balcony, I lingered behind the curtains, my gaze sweeping over the crowd, assessing the palpable energy that filled the air. As the clock struck 12:01, the moment had arrived for the doors to swing open, heralding the bridal processional. In its place, a haze of uncertainty lingered, accompanied by a soft chorus of unease. It's the moment to unleash the truth. I quietly re-entered the AV booth, finding Leo anxiously poised over the soundboard. He caught sight of me and remarked, "Hey man, we're running about 2 minutes behind. Are you all right?" Indeed, I responded with a measured smile, approaching the microphone linked to the overhead speakers. My heart pounded with such intensity that I feared my ribs might shatter. Yet it was the fire of rage and the surge of adrenaline that propelled me forward. Let us embark on this journey. I activated the microphone switch. In the vast expanse of the grand ballroom, my voice resonated through the air. Good afternoon, esteemed guests. A profound silence enveloped the gathered audience. They glanced around, anticipation hanging in the air, waiting for my presence to grace the altar. In place of any presence, they encountered only emptiness. Bewilderment surged. Emily's father rose to his feet, scanning the surroundings with a keen eye. Emily's mother pressed a hand to her chest. "Greetings?" the officiant inquired, a look of confusion crossing their face. "I extend my heartfelt gratitude to each of you for being here," I continued through the speakers. My demeanor remained serene, yet within me, a tempest of vengeance swirled. A subtle shift in our plans will take place prior to the commencement of the ceremony. In truth, a ceremony will not take place. Gasps rippled through the hall, each one a wave crashing upon the shore. Curious eyes stretched and turned, seeking to uncover where I stood amidst the crowd. Some even rose to their feet, straining to catch a glimpse of me near the sound system. Emily must have been unraveling in the bridal suite. Leo cast me a look filled with wonder. I gestured for him to start the video. He hesitated, plugged in my flash drive, and lingered for my signal to proceed. "Before we allow ourselves to spiral into frustration," I announced, my voice echoing through the room, "I have something to share with you all, a short video. Leo, if you please, go ahead and roll it." On the grand projector screen, which had been showcasing a continuous slideshow of Emily and me in our more joyful days, the image suddenly vanished. In an instant, the screen plunged into darkness. Then a grainy yet unmistakable video began to unfold, the footage I had captured merely 12 hours prior. Emily and Keelan found themselves entwined in the bedsheets, their voices rising softly, while the date and time stamp glowed in the lower right corner. I had refined it just sufficiently to emphasize the instant when Keelan's gaze met the camera, even though he remained oblivious to my presence. I had focused the lens to reveal the clock in the background, unmistakably marking it as the eve of this wedding. Gasps of astonishment filled the air, a silence of incredulity ensued, only to be shattered by a tumult of furious murmurs. Several guests stood motionless, hands covering their mouths in shock. One elderly aunt let out a piercing shriek. Dear Lord, Edward Bennett, caught off guard, almost lost his balance and fell into his seat. Marjorie's face twisted in a way that suggested she had ingested something caustic. Keelan, likely situated in the groomsmen's lounge, may have caught the sounds of astonishment and come to understand the unfolding events. It's too late now, my friend. From my vantage point in the booth, the sound of hurried footsteps and urgent shouts reached my ears, a cacophony of chaos unfolding just beyond my sight. The officiant gazed at the screen, a sense of helplessness washing over them. A bridesmaid emitted a mournful cry. From a distant corner, a voice pierced through the air, urging, "Someone turn that off." I chose to allow it to play for a complete 10 seconds, Ample time for everyone to take in the date stamp, the vivid imagery, the realization that it involved my fiancé and my closest companion. In that moment, I severed the connection. The screen faded into darkness once more, yet the cacophony of screams persisted unabated. The whole crowd was engulfed in chaos. Leo's visage bore a ghostly pallor. "What on earth, my friend?" he murmured under his breath. Yet I simply distanced myself from the microphone. Below, I caught sight of Emily emerging at the entrance, clad in her wedding gown, her face etched with terror. Her hair was artfully arranged, her makeup impeccable. Yet her panic remained unmistakable. "Turn it off!" she screeched, her voice laced with desperation. She appeared to have arrived just moments too late to witness the raw footage. Yet the stunned faces around her conveyed all she needed to know. Marjorie hurried to the projector, her fingers stabbing the air as she pointed at the staff. "Who allowed this to unfold?" she spat. Leo, huddled in the booth, found himself without a moment to reply. Edward Bennett charged down the center aisle, bellowing with the ferocity of a wild beast. Where is Jason, I wonder? He spun in circles, his face a patchwork of crimson hues. The guests drifted away from him, caught in a web of indecision, torn between the urge to linger or the instinct to escape. My mother wept, her eyes glistening with sorrow. My father positioned himself beside her, his gaze fixed fiercely on the Bennett, as he sought to unravel the unfolding mystery. Some of Emily's relatives recoiled, gripped by fear that the scandal would cast a shadow over their lives. A woman in the second row collapsed, her companion urgently shaking her shoulder and pleading for water. This was pure chaos. Emily swept her gaze across the crowd, meticulously examining every nook and cranny. The train of her gown trailed behind her, ethereal and haunting, reminiscent of a specter. At last her gaze found me on the balcony of the second floor. I advanced, peering down over the railing. The whole congregation turned their eyes toward her, fixating on me as if I were the ringmaster of a disturbingly dark circus. "What are you up to?" Emily let out a piercing shriek, her voice trembling with indignation. "It is forbidden for you to lay eyes on me before the wedding, you coward." An unusual grievance given the situation. A peculiar satisfaction washed over me as I observed her steadfast adherence to the superstitious custom of keeping the groom from catching a glimpse of the bride, even amidst the chaos unfolding around us. "There will be no wedding," I declared, allowing my voice to resonate through the air. "Last night, you took care to ensure that." She stood still, tears shimmering in her gaze. "Jason, I implore you, let us discuss this privately, away from the gaze of others." "What holds us back?" I retorted. "You had no qualms about betraying me with my closest companion. It seems only fair that those who invested their time and resources to travel here should be informed about the reasons behind the ceremony's cancellation." Her mother, seething with anger and flushed with rage, directed a pointed finger of accusation towards me. "You have tarnished the reputation of the chamber before all these esteemed guests. Are you not aware of the deep humiliation this brings upon us?" I let out a laugh, sharp and tinged with bitterness. "Embarrassing?" Emily and Marcus brought me to a place of deep embarrassment. I am merely repaying a kindness. A sudden stir erupted at the front of the room. Marcus stepped into view, clad in his half-finished tuxedo, his hair in disarray, and his eyes brimming with alarm. "Jason, we need to discuss this matter." He made an attempt to draw near the dais. I hurried down the stairs into the grand hall to confront him. Emily was right there, desperately trying to obstruct my path. Her voluminous white gown obstructed my path, and I pushed past the obstacle. A wave of fury washed over me, leaving me feeling utterly unwell. My fists tightened to the point of pain. Marcus stumbled over his words, exclaiming, "You really took that out of context." She was upset, and I couldn't bear to listen to him any longer. The visions of them entwined in slumber, captured by my device, echoed in my mind. A tempest of rage surged within me, and I struck him across the cheek. The impact resonated, shattering the silence that enveloped the crowd. Marcus stumbled, collapsing onto the floor with a muffled groan of agony. A collective gasp swept through the audience. Emily cried out, "Stop it! You're hurting him!" She knelt beside Marcus, disregarding the way her dress gathered around her. Marjorie emitted a choked gasp. You fiend, attacking him before the eyes of all? I gestured toward Marcus, who was having difficulty rising to his feet. He is the creature, alongside your daughter. They orchestrated my downfall, crafting a scene that unfolded right before my eyes. At this moment, the world has unveiled their true identities. A heavy stillness filled the hall. Emily fixed me with a piercing gaze, tears cascading down her cheeks. Jason, I apologize. Please just cease. I glanced at the guests, a number of them engrossed in their phones, documenting each moment of the unfolding chaos. Thank you all for gracing us with your presence, I remarked with a hint of sarcasm in my formality. Yet today shall not witness a wedding. I apologize if you were hoping for a lovely ceremony. What you receive is the unvarnished truth. With that, I burst forth from the main hall, flinging the imposing double doors wide open. My parents trailed behind, a mix of astonishment and determination etched on their faces. Emily cried out for me, yet I remained steadfast, unwilling to turn around. I made my way back to our apartment, the adrenaline coursing through my veins. My mother stood by my side, her face a portrait of horror, tears glistening in her eyes. Jason, is that really what you believe? Was everything truly real? Upon our arrival, she inquired softly. I nodded, presenting her with the original unedited clip, marked with the timestamp from the previous night. Her expression shifted to one of complete astonishment. Dear God, she whispered, enveloping me in her embrace. I sincerely apologize. My father lingered in the shadows, grappling with the right words to utter. You acted in accordance with necessity, my boy. He rested his hand on my shoulder, yet the sorrow in his eyes was unmistakable. The financial toll of this wedding was significant, yet we would prefer this over witnessing you dwell in falsehood. I expressed my gratitude to them both, urging them to return home and take some time to rest. They departed despite numerous affirmations of their unwavering affection. In spite of it all, a lingering sense of guilt washed over me for the way the wedding spiraled out of control. My parents were forced to endure that degrading scene after giving up so much, yet I was at a loss for how to manage it otherwise. Silently calling off the wedding would not have provided me with the resolution I sought. The truth had to be laid bare for all to see. Once I found myself alone, I began the task of removing Emily's belongings from the apartment. That very night, I dragged boxes from the depths of the closet, gathering all her garments, her vast array of shoes, her makeup kits, and even those eclectic decor pieces she had been so adamant about. I arranged them with great care, inscribing the boxes with a bold black marker. In the stillness of the night, I secured a small U-Haul trailer through an online reservation, filled it to the brim with my belongings, and set off towards her parents' grand estate. The mansion loomed large within the confines of its gated community, a testament to the chamber's exaggerated self-importance. The security guard at the entrance, familiar with my past visits, eyed the U-Haul with a hint of concern and inquired, Everything okay, Mr. Harper? I am merely delivering Emily's belongings, I stated with calm assurance. He swung the gate open. I positioned my vehicle just beyond the entrance, beneath the imposing portico, where the stone columns and the broad mahogany door loomed overhead, casting an air of scrutiny upon me. My anger lingered beneath the surface, yet an unusual tranquility enveloped me. The rush had faded, and the weight of my choices began to settle in. With precision, I arranged the boxes on the doorstep, struck the brass knocker firmly, and then turned to make my way back to the truck. As I departed, a light flickered to life within, likely Edward or Marjorie rising to investigate the audacity of a visitor at the witching hour. Allow them to uncover the cherished possessions of their beloved daughter. She might as well settle into her former bedroom, for all I was concerned. The next morning, I was roused from my slumber by the relentless pounding on my apartment door. For a fleeting moment, I questioned whether it had all been a figment of my imagination. Then the unmistakable voice of Edward Bennett echoed through the air. Reveal yourself. We are aware of your presence within. I slipped into a t-shirt and flung the door wide, revealing Emily, Edward, and Marjorie in the hallway, their faces etched with stormy fury. Emily's eyes were swollen and crimson, her hair a tangled mess. Edward stood tall in a meticulously tailored suit, his fists tightly clenched, exuding an air of authority. Marjorie donned a coat that exuded luxury, her hands gripping a formidable stack of papers. "We must discuss compensation," Edward declared, his tone icy. I stifled a weary chuckle. What is the purpose of compensation? Marjorie thrust the papers into my hands. The debacle of the wedding, without a doubt. We invested tens of thousands of dollars into this event. In addition to the lodging expenses, the catering, and the advanced bookings, your display has marred everything. I cast a fleeting gaze over the detailed receipts. It seems you may not be aware that your daughter was unfaithful to me with Keelan last night. I am quite convinced that they are the cause of all that has gone awry. Emily's expression contorted in a display of righteous anger. Your actions in front of that crowd were completely unjustified. If you had no intention of proceeding, a quiet cancellation would have sufficed. Every right was mine, I seethed, a fresh wave of anger igniting within me. You and Keelan brought me shame, so I repaid the debt in kind. Edward's voice rose, a hint of disbelief lacing his words. Don't act surprised by the consequences of your actions. We contributed to half of that wedding, while your parents took care of the remaining portion. Yet the ultimate expense escalated well beyond their contributions. We seek the return of our funds. You are indebted to us, let's say $15,000, which represents merely a fraction of our overall losses. My gaze fixed in sheer astonishment. Do you truly believe I am indebted to you for $15,000 for a wedding that your daughter undermined? Marjorie's lips contorted. You executed that despicable act with the projector. We hosted significant guests, including clients, donors, and local officials. You brought us shame before those who hold the power to shape reputations. We cannot allow you to depart without settling a portion of the expense. I was almost overcome with laughter at the audacity. It's important to remember that none of this would have transpired had Emily chosen to keep her legs closed the night prior to our wedding. Emily recoiled. You absolute fool! Perhaps if you had been present more often, if you had shown concern for my needs. I interrupted her with a mocking snort. Is it really my fault? Have you ever considered this? Leave this place, both of you. I refuse to part with even a single dime. Edward approached, his imposing figure looming above me. Are you aware of the gravity of your actions? It has been suggested that my presence holds sway in this town. However, you seem to overlook the fact that I possess that recording featuring your daughter's face, along with the corresponding timestamp. If you wish to assert your influence, feel free to do so. We shall unveil the unedited footage for all to witness in the court of public opinion. Your donors and local officials are bound to enjoy revisiting it. Then we can delve into the matter of who truly faces humiliation. They gazed, the anger on Edward's face deepening. Yet he faltered. Emily approached with a fresh perspective, moving closer, her eyes brimming with tears. Jason, if you would be so kind. Once we shared a profound love for one another. We crafted a life together. Let us not obliterate all that we have built due to a single misstep. One mistake? I inquired, my voice trembling with incredulity. It was no mere accident, it was a choice you made. I observed and documented it. There is no turning back now. Now please leave immediately. Edward's shoulders drooped in resignation as the weight of his powerlessness settled upon him. Indeed, they might attempt to intimidate me, yet the proof lay firmly in my favor. Marjorie released a disdainful sniff. I merely shrugged, a hint of foreboding in my voice. You'll come to regret this, I said. Not nearly as much as I would have lamented the decision to marry your daughter. They burst forth, the door crashing shut with a force that sent tremors through the frame. My head reclined against the wood once they had departed. A tide of weariness and a poignant sense of relief washed over me. The end has come. There existed neither a wedding nor a fiancé, nor even a best friend. A victory that feels empty, yet remains a victory nonetheless. News traveled swiftly. Friends extended their hands, offering support, expressing shock, or casting judgment. I recounted the tale once more, detailing how I discovered their secret and the reasons behind my decision to unveil the truth at the wedding. Some described it as brutal, while others deemed it epic. I turned a deaf ear to the naysayers. Marcus sent a single text. I apologize, but you must realize that I chose to overlook it. He soon found himself without a job. A consequence of his own dishonesty. How fitting. My parents found themselves in a state of turmoil, their hearts heavy with the weight of lost finances. Yet a flicker of relief danced in their eyes at the thought of me escaping a potentially disastrous union. My father comforted my mother, asserting that it was preferable to lose money than to sacrifice Jason's dignity. I made a vow to return what I owe them. The Bennett engaged in damage control, weaving tales of my outburst and envy. Yet the guests perceived the reality. Their standing lay in tatters. Emily, shamed and adrift, wandered among her friends, perhaps even returning to Marcus. I was indifferent. I relocated to a more affordable apartment, immersed myself in my work, and gradually reconstructed my life. Heartbreak hung in the air, yet anger propelled me onward. As the days turned into weeks, the scandal gradually slipped from the public's consciousness. Yet I held on to a snippet of that hotel footage, prepared for the moment someone might dare to challenge the truth of what transpired.